paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, that's downright refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another special episode of Brainstorm Brewery. I am your host, Douglas DJ JD J the D Johnson. I am here with not Corbin, not Jason, not Rian, not Maselli, but Cass Lynn. We are two-manning it tonight with a very special guest whose expected value is higher than both Jason and Corbin, more than the sum of their parts. We have Jimmy Fricke from Vegas Singles on the podcast today.
I don't know if I can live up to that, but I appreciate it.
It's a low bar. You've cleared it exceptionally well. I am reasonably familiar with you from the vendor Discord we were both in, and from the handful of times we've interacted at booths and all that stuff. Done a few deals together, all that nonsense. But yeah, it's tough to have guests on when we have the full four, because then the guest doesn't really get a chance to talk much. So it is nice for Corbin and Jason or whoever among us to be gone once in a while, and then we can have some additional talent in from the community to chat about maybe their business model or how it differs from everyone else, or sort of the niche that they have carved into this niche of an industry.
I am happy to fill any gaps you might have.
Love to hear it. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, who are you, what do you do besides magic, just anything you want to spell out on the table for our listeners.
Yeah, well, I'm from downstate Illinois, near Champaign-Urbana. I went to the U of I for like half a semester and then dropped out to play poker for a living. And I played poker professionally for like 15 years. I come from like a games background, went from one card game to another, like Pokemon in grade school to like to Magic in high school.
All of us had some form of ladder like that.
Most
of it starts with Pokemon. Some of it goes through Yu-Gi-Oh! Some of us enter the dark ages of like Digimon or some weird stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I went like Yu-Gi-Oh! But no one played it, so I moved to Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic, poker. I started playing poker because my friends who all played Magic at the local, I played in like the University of Illinois Magic Club, and all my friends who were like a few years older than me stopped to play poker because it was like, back then it was free money. And then I quit Magic for a while. But when I moved to Las Vegas in 2008, when I turned 21, I was at Panorama Towers with a bunch of other like combination Magic / poker players. So I drafted a bunch with like David Williams and Justin Bonomo and a lot of those guys. So I got back into Magic with that, and then kind of like stayed on the edges until like 2018 when I tried to start up another company with another friend of mine, and I needed like a hobby that wasn't poker. So I got back into Magic, and then I've just been in since then.
Yeah, I think a lot of people not have followed like a similar path, but like have dipped in and out of Magic over the past few years. I'm in a weird spot where I think I'm one of the only Magic players in the world who doesn't know how to play poker.
I mean, there's levels of playing poker, right? I mean, I honestly think like it's good not to jump in at this point. I would dissuade people from playing poker. So
yeah, I don't have intentions to. I feel like that's a sunk cost of my time. As I was a Boy Scout growing up, and I learned how to play pitch. That was like my only competitive card game was pitch back when I was like 8 to 13 years old.
In the immortal words of the ever-wise John Boyce, being really bad at poker is really fun.
It's also very expensive. But
right.
I mean, generally the worst poker player at the table is the one with the most money. So It's a good thing to aspire to be the worst poker player at the table.
That is fair. So one of the reasons I asked to have you on is because I think you have a very unique business model in this industry that has sort of gone by the wayside, specifically delving into sealed product and the ability to crack packs and still run a profit, which I think is unique nowadays, especially with, I mean, we're not isolated from this. Like Brainstorm Brewery and plenty of us on it have run the refrain of don't buy packs anymore. Sealed product is bad. It's toxic. Don't hold on to it. They reprint everything. Just stay away from it. Just buy collections. Like that's basically what all of me, Corbin, Cass, and Jason have done over the past 10, 15 years is just buy collections, flip them, rinse and repeat, put the money into more collections, be the person who is known to buy collections, but you differ from that.
Yeah, I hate buying collections. I don't do it at all. It's not part of my business model. The only times I ever buy collections are like when I have friends that have like piles of cards from drafts or whatever that they want to sell, and I hate doing it then. It might change a little bit when I get a Roka. I'm planning on getting a Roka fairly soon to help with the box crackings, and then it'll be a little bit easier to do collections. But like just logistically, that's the kind of thing like the busy work and whatever. I don't like doing that. So I mean, I come from a math background, obviously, and to me, it just seemed like, well, I mean, I love cracking packs. Everyone likes cracking packs. So early on,
I hate
like
cracking packs. We are at the opposite ends of the spectrum.
I
I'm
love
poisoned
cracking
on it.
packs. It is so much fun. It does I get sick of it after I'm like 100 boxes in or whatever. But like the next set, I'll be like, ooh, boosties. And I'll just keep cracking. Yeah, like early on, like there were always rumblings of like EV calculators and stuff like that. It used to be so much easier to calculate the expected value of boosters, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why people like tend to stay away from that kind of thing, because it's so difficult to calculate the expected value of collector boosters, because every slot is just so different. There's
And
tons of different treatments.
I mean, there's a specific channel in the vendor Discord we are in for calculating box EV, and I thought that was an open book tested at a Regents exam. I thought it was like, okay, like somebody clearly just did the math wrong on this, and like we'll fix it. But that channel was created months ago, and it still has people arguing over the correct EV of a specific kind of box.
Yeah, every set is different, and they keep changing things up, and the serial odds aren't like fully known. So like, and no one can open enough boxes to really like know for sure like what the rate is for serial cards or textures.
And anybody
or
that
whatever
can
it
open
is.
enough boxes to know the rate for serial cards is not telling everybody.
Right, exactly. I mean, I paid like I paid someone like high four figures to build a box EV calculator for me. And it worked for a very long time, and it was good until they lost their mind and wanted more money from me. So I don't do that anymore. But you can generally go into like the collecting whatever set article that gets released with each set, and come up with a good way of calculating it. The important thing is just to figure out like how you're selling everything and get your infrastructure set up. So for me, like calculating EV is useless unless like you know what your post fees number on every card is going to be. And that's the issue with the public EV calculators like Donglair. Like Donglair has been around for forever, and it's quietly like the thing that everyone refers to. And there are a couple other examples of it, but the problem is like it doesn't include fees, so it's kind of useless. And for TCG player, like if you're just doing TCG low, you can just deduct like the 12% fees or whatever. But like many others, we sell on Direct, and Direct has a combination flat fee plus a percentage that has to get applied to each card. So it's very, very difficult to
And
just
and your ability to get the like you can get a different number, and Direct low can exist or not exist, right? Like you can have a card that has $10 TCG Direct low, but then if the card's not in stock on Direct, then you don't get the $10 low number, even though the card is like $4 regular low. And then like that Direct stock number can change very quickly and infinitely too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I lean so heavily on SYP also. For those who don't know, SYP is a program in TCG Player where it literally stands for Store Your Products. SYP is the program with how they fund, like how they stock their Direct listings. So you can send in like 100 copies of a card, and they will use it as their Direct stock. And that way when you have a ton of cards, it makes sure that they have a huge stock to send cards out, and so your stuff stays in direct all the time. And because your stuff is at the TCG Player warehouse, you don't have to worry about conditioning, and they fulfill everything for you, and every sale you get is going to be direct. So there are downsides to it, but for the most part, like when you crack, brand new products and you have 50 of like a very popular mythic, it's really, really nice to have it all at SYP where, you don't have to worry about any fulfillment issues.
Interesting. I'm someone who has read about SYP multiple times, dipped my toes into it previously, largely unsuccessfully, and then has just kind of gone back to the other things that I do.
Yeah, I read about it a year or two ago, mostly during COVID, and I did not feel like I could upkeep the amount of things that they wanted me to send in, specifically because, again, all my stuff is through collections, so a lot more ranges on condition, a lot more ranges on just all these other weird niche products that they clearly don't want, and I don't expect them to want, and the things that they do want, I was so scared of, well, I could send them this near mint invasion set of Odyssey foils that I think are near mint, but they're Odyssey foils, so if those 4 come back as LP according to them, then there's a big hit, and this whole, did not seem like I needed to fix something that wasn't broken on my end.
I think it's
no, absolutely.
We're a little bit of dinosaurs in that regard, DJ. We're kind of afraid of technology in case we're wrong.
That's fair, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we want to have control over your cards too. I don't recommend people send in tabernacles or anything. It's even though there might be some things in direct, for the most part it's used for big bricks of staples. I want to send in. I just sent in 35 mana crypts. We cracked almost 200 boxes of mystery boosters, and I had 35 mana crypts and a ton of other stuff. Well, now mana crypt for mystery boosters is always going to be in stock. On direct, which means you always get the premium. I don't have to mail any of them. It's a card that's going to sell pretty frequently, and so it just keeps everything kind of well lubricated at direct, and keeps the money churning. Because you don't want to be sending in one copy of a weird card that if it gets stocked out, they send out their 1 copy and then suddenly you have to wait 2 weeks for it to get sent into TCG Player for it to even be in stock on direct anymore. Because with SYP, the downside is if there isn't a card in direct, you can't sell yours. They need a copy to be able to send out, and yours are already there. So yeah, I mean, it just comes down to a preference of how you want to deal with things. When I deal in cards, my high-end stuff, I still have my regular Vegas Singles account that I sell with picture listings or whatever, but when I deal with 50 plus copies of staples, I just send it to SYP and forget about it. Basically, I have an auto repricer that runs once or twice a day and just drops it in my account when I'm done.
Sounds like you've set it so that you're as hands off as possible, which is not a
yeah.
Not an insult.
I love. I'm so lazy, and I love outsourcing labor. And for a long time, I did it with my box crackings too, and I still kind of do it. But there's lots of infrastructures out there that you have to you have to have deals in place for that kind of thing. Because I think there's still a lot of work to be done in this industry. I just prefer to focus my attention on the buying aspect, which I think is the most important part of the job, and I just don't like doing the sorting and everything else that comes with it.
Sure. So feel free to be as vague as you'd like here, but as an example for somebody who is still wondering how in the hell this is profitable, Thunder Junction is coming out in some number of weeks, whatever that new set, the standard set is with all the Okos and the cowboy hats and all that. Walk me through what it looks like for you to decide how many of this to get, the logistics of actually getting it all physically opened and sorted and all this stuff, because you said you don't have a Roki yet, and then actually getting it to TCG Player through SYP, getting it online, and then making actual money out of it.
So brand new Magic sets, with a few exceptions, I really try not to go too hard on something, at least not pre-release. So I think one of the most valuable things that you can do is try to figure out what the public consciousness thinks about a set and then try to zigzag that. So like for Thunder Junction specifically, I plan on getting a decent number of collector boosters. I have a Whatnot streamer who does very well with collector boosters, so we try to get collector booster for that. But my plan with is to not get play boosters. I think for new releases, unless it's something like Modern Horizons 3 that like we just know that they're gonna knock it out of the park, or at least the singles will be very high in demand. My plan with cracking for singles with Thunder Junction is more like, so my actual thoughts are going into it. It has multiple bonus sheets. It has the Vault bonus sheet, and then it also has the Crime bonus sheet.
And the special guests.
Bonus sheet. Yeah. So, I mean, it is the list, too, which the list is also very good. And bonus sheets in the past have always performed very well because they will often have a bunch of, like, high-level reprints that normally can't be in a standard set. So if you look at the sets like Eldraine and Strixhaven, they have cards like Demonic Tutor and Smothering Tithe and Rhystic Study that aren't normally in standard sets, but they don't crash when they come out nearly as much, and they generally have like extra printings that people want. So you will have premiums on a lot of those cards, but then you still have the main set, which could just be good. And that was the issue with Strixhaven. Strixhaven, the bonus sheet was based pretty much all of the money in the set. Like, the actual set was garbage. Eldraine had some good stuff in the set, and also the good bonus sheet, so it ended up being like a home run. But the plan for Thunder Junction is to see how good the set is and see what people think about the set. Because you can tell really quickly if a set is really, really hyped, then that means that people are going to be opening lots of boxes, driving up the sealed prices, and they're going to be cracking those boxes, getting the singles, and then dumping them on the open market. So if everyone's cracking singles, which decreases the amount of sealed and increases the amount of singles, I don't want to be touching that product. I do not want to open that product for singles, because the singles prices will crash on release like they always do, and then sealed prices will be up. So when that kind of happens, you just want to be selling the sealed product. Which Magic product, it's really hard to sell Magic product sealed for like good value. So I don't generally try to do that, especially with play boosters in standard that are going to be around for forever. So you see with like Fallout, everyone is opening Fallout like crazy. So you don't want to be opening for singles because the prices are in the garbage. But selling the sealed was a really good plan. What I like to do, and the biggest money makers, are actually when the set is old and everyone thinks it's bad, then I come in and swoop up and I become like the hero to distros or stores and say, hey, I'll take all of the product that you have for this set. And they give me a sweetheart deal. And then the EV is way better than people think it is, because let's take Commander Masters, for example. Commander Masters is a extremely good set, except the price was just way too high. That was really the only mistake they made with Commander Masters, because the set is full of staples that sell like crazy. So no one opened it, and the set is like loaded with good stuff, and everyone has this sealed product just sitting around doing nothing that they don't want to do anything with. That's the perfect conditions to go in and like buy out your local LGS, or like try to do a deal, which is what we did recently. We went overseas and we talked to a few distros and a few game stores about doing a deal for Commander Masters that they didn't want, especially because Commander isn't good overseas. So I spent like $50,000 on Commander Masters that, is excellent in terms of singles, and the EV was extremely good. And they're happy to be rid of it, so it like builds a relationship for the future too. So that's mainly what I try to do. The new releases are the danger zone, because there are a lot of intangibles that you don't know about and you don't know what you're doing. And honestly, a lot of the times that I opened Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and it was a great set. Everyone loved it. I still broke even, even though I cracked like 300 play boosters, because the singles just dropped so much that really wasn't anything you could do. Now the singles are recovering, but at the time, like, you just didn't make enough.
Jimmy, if you had Bitter Triumphs in Atlanta, you could have sold them for $6 each.
Yeah,
You've gotten a Reddit thread written about you.
Yep.
All right. Well, that is good to hear. I mean, I'm glad that our usual refrain of do not buy into sealed product as soon as it releases is not misguided. And yeah, I mean, reaching out to your LGS and any sort of store that is sitting on what they perceive to be dead inventory can absolutely be good if you have the logistics to make that happen through a TCG player with minimal effort, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the heuristic of like not buying a ton of like standard product when it's brand new to just sit on or like to crack, it like makes sense. There's a ton of the product, like it's just but you know, then there is something like Fallout that comes along every once in a while that's, you know, an amazing product that doesn't have any supply out there, so it's a completely different situation.
What were you gonna say, Cass?
I feel like I learned more in the last 10 minutes than I have from like 100 episodes of this podcast.
Well, thank you. I learned a lot from you too.
Well, hopefully we can learn something from you, Cass, when you stump us all with your breaking bulk of the week.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, breaking bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
So I know DJ's already disqualified from this one. Completely dead in the water, because it's from Karlov Manor. It's a green... What do I give you? The color and the type. It's been a while since I've done one of these episodes.
The color and the type? Yeah, sure.
It's a green creature from Karlov Manor. Uncommon.
I think this is on the top of a Roka batch behind me. I don't know the card name.
Yeah.
Feel free to jump in and snag it, Jimmy.
I'm resisting to type stuff into Scryfall. I like cheating at this when I'm listening in it on the podcast at home.
I do too sometimes. It's fine.
Nope, that is a green rare non-creature, so I won't pull a Corbin and analyze the pollen, because that is not it.
We're not analyzing the pollen.
Maybe if I analyze some pollen in real life, I can reach an enlightened state of mind and guess this without actually knowing the card, but...
I don't know anything green. My roommate played Boris Convoke in a tournament, so I know the red-white cards, but I don't know the green cards.
You got me.
I'm gonna call that a dub here. Aftermath analyst. We're analyzing the aftermath, not the pollen, DJ. This card has a buy list of 24 cents.
Aftermath analyst.
Firmly in breaking bulk territory. It was the key card in CFT Sock's 68 card GP quote unquote winning list. Very powerful ramp card at uncommon. You have to do a little splendid reclamation on your creature.
I'm just picturing, what is this, a merfolk or like a human or something?
I think it's a human detective.
Okay, I'm just picturing, you're giving me a mental image here. I'm just picturing like a Sherlock Holmes detective style, like going down with a magnifying glass. They got the hat on, they're looking at the footprints and like twisting at some dial and like pulling out a ruler. And then they just look up at the camera and they're like, can confirm Aftermath was a real set.
You're not that far off from Herald. It's actually an elf.
I think Aspiring Spike was brewing at this card in Modern, in some sort of Valakut deck.
Returning all your lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped on a creature, a Splendid Reclamation that you can Summoner's Pact for in an Amulet of Vigor in Valakut format seems pretty good.
That's an uncommon?
Yeah.
World Shaper in shambles.
They reprinted Splendid Reclamation and killed it, and they printed this card, and it's like maybe double dead, or maybe it's better. Because you can play
Shaper's
both.
the Ixalan merfolk that like does the same thing, right? It's a rare.
It has to die though, doesn't it?
Yes.
That card sucks. You have to Cabal Therapy sack it. Give me a Veteran Explorer.
The Power Creepers. I think I'm gonna stump everyone today. I'm very happy with this one. Fresh out of the Roka oven.
We'll see.
It is a Stronghold white. I think it's uncommon. Hang on.
Is this Nomad's Encore?
No.
Oh, yeah, I'm dead. I got nothing.
Jimmy, how are you at Stronghold cards?
Probably not great.
This is a rare, excuse me. But you know what? All of those are the same because they all have a black set symbol. This is a white stronghold rare. It is a creature. And it's a soldier, if that helps.
Is this like the
All the creatures deck
mana-
were so bad.
3 mana 1/1 shadow that when it attacks because all your creatures +1/+1? Sultari something?
It's a 2/2, but I'll give it to you. Yeah, like,
that
was
card used to be
impressive.
so good in Cube.
That was impressive. Maybe
I
that's
also
the
think
reason.
that card.
It's still worth something. I don't know if pre-modern's it. Maybe it is just a lingering cube card that it seems not.
It hasn't been playable in
amazing.
Cube for a long time. It has not
Right,
been playable
but
in Cube for a very long time.
Market price is close to $3, so it must be playable somewhere.
Yeah. I feel like this card was in it was in Tempest Remastered, and I think I drafted a bunch of that on Modo.
You know what? Thanks to MTGstocks.com, our generous sponsor of this podcast, I think I know what caused this card to spike. So, a couple years ago, as people were bunkering down during COVID, a pretty little format started to bloom out of the ruins of the Magic ecosystem, and that is called pre-modern. I kind of had a hunch as to why this card might have spiked, because, it's legal in that format, and it's certainly not good anywhere else. But if you look at the graph on MTG stocks, this card bottomed out at around $1 in late 2020, and then it spiked pretty hard percentage-wise to around $3, and then it spiked again to around $5 last year. And so there has been a resurgence of the pre-modern format, which of course starts after old school 93-94 and ends, at Scourgy, however you would like to say it. And Scourge. And Sultari Champion is presumably some sort of white weenie leader anthem attacking nonsense with this. It went from 1 to 5, and it's got Shadow. It is only one reprint. MTG Stocks can confirm that for us too. But we have data on this going all the way back to 2012 when, like Cass said, it was a good cube card. It was around $2, and then it slowly got phased out for all the Banisher Priests and the, what do you want to call it?
This is like a boomer signal pest.
Yeah, it's a boomer signal pest. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
If we're going to call it that, then I guess like Gen X Signal Pest is Piana Nomad Captain. And then like Millennial Signal Pest is Signal Pest, and then Zoomer Signal Pest is the vampire from Ixalan, Sanguine Evangelist. Is that the full spectrum?
Yeah.
We're going too far deep here. You lost me.
We have a sociological spectrum of white weenie cards that people get nostalgic for in Cube. We've done it.
I have an unreasonable attachment to Signal Pests.
Pick this card out of your
Signal
vault
Pest you're good at.
if you find any Stronghold rares. Jimmy, what do you got for us? It's probably going to be under the new card. I'm not going to like this, but I'll let you know.
It is newish, and I don't know. Like, we could see this. It might have been on the podcast before. I honestly don't know. But I have an artifact from Unfinity. And it's not an acorn. It's legal. It's legal in.
Is this
Yeah,
Clowncar?
you got it right away. It's Clowncar.
Okay.
That was quick. Okay. Yeah. Until recently, this was a 50-cent card, and now it is currently $6.50 on TCG Player.
$6?
Yep.
Yeah. I think all of Unfinity is kind of poised right now to like jump up whenever we see cards that are like playable. I think. Is it on Magic Online? Did it recently get on Magic Online? Is that why it's expensive now?
That
It might have, actually, yeah. I think
be.
a number of the cards got on there.
Yeah,
I also remember this card being something people wanted for Magda CEDH, the dwarf one, where you need to accrue dwarves to make treasures.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have checked in, but how much do you think Comet is?
Like
the
$9?
dog walker.
I sold one of these on Twitter recently. It's like 13 or 14.
It is $30. 30.
So, I got a hot take about Comet Stellar Pup, is that it's good and it's always been good. I believe it was my pick sometime last year.
You have proselytized the space dog plenty. You're more than welcome to continue to do so. I am not going to stop you if you have additional comment information, but
my initial comment information is this card whips.
Go off.
I have over 100 copies in SYP right now. I've just been like sitting them there, like never pricing them down. Just like I believe in this card, and then now my time has come. It's amazing. We opened so much Unfinity, and every single time I just refuse to sell Comet. Although I'm 100% like, if there was ever a time to name to name it Sparky, like, how could they not name the dog planeswalker Sparky? It's so perfect. I know there's a stupid Sparky thing on Arena, but even still, just so perfect.
That's just referential then, right?
I don't know, man. Like,
I agree. That's a swing and a miss on their part.
Yeah. Comet. Whatever.
When Comet got printed, I divested my weird emotional attachment stack of Griss for a weird emotional attachment stack of Comets that I need to go find now.
Yes, you need to find those right now. The MTG stocks graph does say 28.99 average. You need to capitalize and not pull a DJ, because I famously a few years ago had some 3-digit number of rooftop storms that I could not find during the Innistrad Midnight Hunt preview season, and then found shortly after the commander decks were revealed, and it was in one of those, so not coming back from that one.
Yeah, Comet's time has come. I'm going to start selling it as much as I can.
There's some pun here, there's some Haley's, some things, there's some Comet, time pun, space pun. NASA people, get at me in the comments and YouTube. Tell me which astrological entity I should have formed a funny word sentence with our little friend.
I have a bonus breaking bulk that kind of ties into my pick of the week later.
Okay.
And this one's not one we're going to guess on. This is just a card that went from being worth nothing to being like $10 because of, like, I'm going to say 4 or 5 tweets. Lumbering Mega Sloth from Fallout.
Yep.
It is a green and 10 colorless, I believe. 8/8 trample that comes in tapped. That costs 1 colorless less for each counter on permanents and players. And so if you play a dark...
I'm gonna do a trivia question here. How many counters does the Dark Depths come in with?
I believe the answer is 10, Douglas.
Oh, so that makes this card cost green and a green. And is there a land that makes Dark Depths tap for green mana?
It's like, let's say you play Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth on turn 1.
Oh,
I think that's the name of that card.
Yes.
You can also just, like, pitch 2 Elvish Spirit Guides, or like this card just goes in the Turbo Depths deck, and when we get to my pick of the week later, I'll reference this again.
Jimmy, how many Lumbering Mega Sloths do you have in SYP?
I have 0. I didn't touch the actual... It's interesting because this card isn't in the collector boosters, I don't think.
I think it only Surge Foils are, right?
Is there a Surge Foil version in the 1 slot? Because those cards are really hard to get.
Yeah, the Surge Foil, there's one listed for like 150 on TCG right now.
Yeah. So I think there's 1 slot in the collector boosters that can have Surge Foil versions of the cards in the deck, and that's the only one that this comes in. It's not an extended art or anything. So that, if you happen to get those are going to be really expensive.
I remember when Doctor Who was first coming out, the most expensive cards to open out of the set were like the 2 chase cards and then like foil or Surge Foil Sonic Screwdrivers or whatever, just like uncommons.
Yeah, I know the regular Surge Foil Soul Rings in Fallout are quite expensive because they're really, really hard to get. There's a lot of cards and there's only 1 slot in a pack.
Yep.
So, on that topic, if you happen to come across one of these interestingly expensive cards that are expensive for a very weird reason, in this case, the slot it can come in the pack, are you a fan of selling these immediately? Or holding them, because I mean we've seen something kind of like this before with Lord of the Rings. Any person who willingly dipped their toes into extended art foil copies of the One Ring and paid several $100s on them got kneecapped by Wizards a few months later when they put them in another print run of something. Do we see that happening with Fallout again? I guess I'm asking this as an open forum, Cass and Jimmy.
personally, I just sell into the hype. Even the holding the comets was like something I almost never do. I really don't like specking on cards. It's like fun when it pays off, but to me, it's always felt like more like gambling than anything because half
For
the time,
sure.
it
I
just
guess-
doesn't pan out.
I guess I'm asking more from the context of like if you're a player wanting to get the best version for their deck, do you see yourself regretting that deeply in the future? Because I mean, if you want to pay $100 for a really cool sloth, do you just wait and pay 10 for it down the line if they decide to do Fallout 2 Electric Boogaloo?
I'll answer as someone who's the target demographic of $100 slots. If you want the cool thing and you can afford it, and if it drops to $0 and you can afford that, buy it. If you can't afford it, if it drops to $0, don't buy it.
Fair.
If you want to play with, you should just like pay the money and be happy with it. Like it's
I
much
agree.
much different if you're trying to sell it for profit.
In general, though, if I have these things, I would like to just sell them and keep my money moving.
Yes.
Even if I'm just a player and I'm just like, I open up a collector box of Fallout and I get the sloth, I will probably derive more enjoyment and also more financial gain by just selling it for something that I will actually get utility from.
It also is like a lot can be said for just the velocity being so much higher when the thing is new and shiny. Like
Yes.
you do not want to be stuck with 10 of this thing if no one cares about it in a year's time, because moving it is going to be nearly impossible. You will almost always have to end up selling to a vendor for pennies on the dollar.
Well, and that's one of the reasons you're able to get sealed product from people, is because nobody wants the old boring Commander Masters thing when there's shiny new Fallout boxes on the table.
Right.
That's true. You know what? Forget everything I said. Do whatever you want.
So, we're going to have to get off this call real soon in about like 15 or 20 minutes. I have a pallet of Fallout boxes coming to my doorstep. I suddenly have an urge to find $100 sloths, and I'm curious to see what my partner's reaction is when a gigantic box of... Not even box, a pallet size thing of Magic cards shows up at the doorstep.
I feel like anybody who's done this long enough has had that happen.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the first and what has to probably be the last time it ever gets delivered to my home was when Amazon listed their Commander 2019 decks, the returns they had, for just like a song. I had what had to be, I think it was almost 2 full pallets of Commander 2019 decks delivered to my doorstep, and then I realized I had to shuck them all to pull out the Fierce Guardianships.
Yep.
And it was
That's
a
the
really
worst
rough
thing.
week. It was a rough week in the household that week.
I did the same with 2015 decks, famously. I think Ryan Bashard was on this podcast, and we were talking about it during the podcast as I was working out the math and figuring out if I was insane for trying to spend 20 grand on C15 decks on Amazon. I was like, Fiery Confluence is 30, Urza's Incubator, Thought Vessel, whatever other cards, Sun Titan, etc. And I was like, that adds up to like a 2.5 times... Each deck is like 100 and they want 30? Am I insane? And then, lo and behold, a week later, my entire kitchen is full of these boxes, and it takes a minute to crack Commander decks. It
Yep.
takes like a minute to crack one. Cracking
There's
all
so
of them
much
is a lot.
packaging.
They've evolved over time. The packaging has gotten like weirder and weirder. But yeah, Commander decks are like among my least favorite, especially because like when you get done ripping them, if you don't put them back together, you have
Yep.
like essentially like the like
You
Russian
have 6
nesting
different
dolls.
levels of Russian doll shells, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's awful. And then you like throw it in the garbage, and like 5 decks will like fill up an entire garbage. So you have to like constantly just be ruining. I should include a picture. If I can, I'll try to get a picture of like the curb on the day of a garbage pickup one day after we like cracked hundreds of boxes, because it was an absolute disaster. We've definitely had that happen a few times. I recently just moved into an office. I just rented my first office, and so it's significantly easier right now. But in the past, yeah, there have been like a few moments of just absolute nightmares of garbage building up, and just tertiary products We do other games too sometimes, and we opened like 300 Pokeball tins of Pokemon cards that we got cheap at like a Sam's Club, and oh my god, those things are annoying because those Pokeballs are so heavy and they're just so hard to get open. And then the packs are like bent and weird inside of them, and it's like that was a nightmare, and never again.
I think the worst Magic product I've ever opened in terms of packaging was actually the Lord of the Rings scene boxes. I don't know if either of you cracked any of those.
I did not.
We got a whole bunch of them super cheap because Lord of the Rings set packs were just like good to buy, and the Legolas one, had Legolas's quick reflexes. But if you open it up, it was like you have the box you have to slide out, and then there's like a second box inside the box, and inside there is like 3 little containers. One of them has like a wax paper packet that has like the good cards, a wax paper packet that has the bad cards, and a wax paper packet that has like the commons and uncommons. There was like 4 layers in a package that was like, I don't know, 8 inches across. I don't think I've ever seen trash bags fill up that fast as when we were cracking those.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings packaging in general, I think, is pretty bad. Like, we opened a ton of the bundles, and the bundles were also like pretty much a disaster. And not to mention that we got shorted the One Ring a couple times because they had collation issues with the scene cards. It was a nightmare.
It's only going to get worse from here.
I know secret layers are awful sometimes to open.
No.
Original Jumpstart's really bad because every pack has 2 wrappers.
Oh yeah,
That's
so
true.
you could get some that were made in the EU that didn't have the wrappers, but the ones made in the US did, and yeah, it was terrible. Secret layers have gotten a lot better now that they're the envelopes rather than like the boxes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We ordered like max number of sets for the Street Fighter layer. We are still going through those boxes. We used them to ship like high value cards.
Yep. The
things.
Jurassic Park ones weren't in envelopes either. The Jurassic World ones come in like the annoying boxes too. I just opened those last week.
I think they
any
said
product...
that all the universes beyond. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They want people who are coming to Magic for the first time to have the most premium experience.
Yeah, either that or they just made so many of them they're just going to keep using them.
That also makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in a boardroom meeting and you have to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and
yeah, like they pitched it like, it comes in this box, and then they're like, oh, okay, I guess it comes in the box. Like, no box, no box is an envelope. What is this? Isn't what we agreed to? Perfect.
I'm a middle manager and I have to justify my salary for another 6 months.
Yep. Alright, let's start justifying some guesses here on Mark Rosewater's teaser for Outlaws of Thunder Junction. For those who don't know, Mark Rosewater, one of the head designers of Magic, does a little teaser every standard release, and it's got some little cookie crumbs of information for which we can sometimes guess what future cards will spike from, or interactions with past cards that have seen new light. As an example, I think one of the hottest little hints on here is a mechanic players have been asking us to do for many years gets made as the setting was the perfect place to finally do it. What could that mean?
A mechanic... So it's a mechanic that already exists, I'm guessing.
No, it's players have been asking us to do this for many years, finding it's made. And this setting was the perfect place to do it. So some form of Wild West... First thing that comes to mind is like a quick draw.
Is it a twist on Kicker or Flashback? That's the first guess.
Well, my first thought is Clash.
That's what I thought too, because I was thinking like a quick draw, like gun style, gunslinger. But
like, what are some other Wild West tropes? You got like, all I can think about is gun duels right now. I do want to see Fibblethip gun duel somebody.
Target practice, like shooting cards out of their hand, maybe. I don't know. Not like Infinity style, but something to do with like Russian roulette, maybe.
Oh, so we have, I don't know how much. There's a card that's been spoiled. We don't know exactly what it does. Is the Fibblethip. It has the plot ability, which I believe is like, my guess is that you get a plot of land. You can like turn cards from your hand face down as lands, or cards from the top of your deck face down as lands. That's my like call from like pointing at left bleachers Babe Ruth moment.
I believe we know what plot does from the leaks. It is basically foretell, where you pay like all of the mana now and then 0 later instead of like 2 now and some later.
That's why I don't play baseball.
I didn't see that.
Plot
like
is
that.
basically foretell, where you pay like the whole plot cost up front, and the card is revealed, and then you can play it later for free. Dual lands with a land subtype that has never been on dual lands before. I believe this one was also kind of spoiled through the leaks. If you don't want to listen to leaks, then plug your ears and say la 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 real loud as you drive. But this is on deserts, I think.
Yeah, that was neat. I think it's a really neat idea. They had the one that ETBs and ping someone, and that triggers the crime. That triggers like a crime ability.
Oh, that's true. Sunscorched Desert commits a crime.
Yeah.
As you're dealing 1 damage to the opponent. Is that in the set? Did they just reprint that?
Probably
No,
not.
that's what the deserts do.
Yeah, they
dual
ping
land
you when
is
they come in.
Yeah, it pings target opponent, so you targeted them.
Oh,
so it's
all of
crime.
the new ones do. So they made dual land Sunscorched. Oh, I see. I'm just thinking of the Amonkhet one that exists already. Okay.
They come into play
Yeah.
tapped.
Yeah.
And ping somebody. These cards are way better than people think.
Vapor Snag's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's also just one of those things where like
Sorry.
there are a number
Vapor Snag is the millennial unsummon. If we're using that spectrum again.
No, that's fading hope,
Especially
honey.
if they kind of like built a what I expect to be like a limited environment around them that has like abilities that are relevant. I definitely think those are going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah. A new modal mechanic that introduces something different to think about.
What? That's so vague.
Nothing comes to mind for that, but I do love modal cards. Some of my favorite things from the Mark Rosewater articles are the creature types coming. We have Homerid Mercenary, which is a good one for all of the people who have back pain. And we also have Armadillo, which I am super into. Armadillos are so cute. They just love digging in the ground.
Do you know they're born with leprosy?
I don't think they all are. I think most of them are, though. It's like very common among them.
They're
I think they're one of like
carriers. Yeah.
I think it's like them and humans are the only ones who can like really carry leprosy in a meaningful way, right?
Yeah. Sounds horrible.
Did not know that. Today I learned.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah,
people who work
if
with armadillos, like certain armadillos, just have to be yeeted back into the wild or something. They can't be held in captivity if they have it.
Yeah. Always wash your hands.
No,
That's just good advice.
that's just good. Always wash your hands.
If
More
a
people should do
triggered
that.
if a triggered ability of a legendary creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. That is 3 instances of the word trigger in that sentence.
What is the? Is that more or less than Panharmonicon? If an artifact, a creature, or anything but because the triggered ability of a permanent you control
It's
trigger that ability.
once. It's another
It's 3.
Panharmonicon.
But I'm saying how many
Oh.
times is the word trigger appear on the card? It's the same number of times as Panharmonicon. Let's not.
Which is too many.
Let's not act like it's bad templating because it's different. It's bad templating because it's always been bad.
Did they just do this recently? Like, didn't there was something in Karlov Manor, so they're just like really harping on this.
They are really big on do it again mechanics for triggers lately. I think we are kind of at the point where we can look at it getting keyworded like mill, where I mean the word replicate is already stolen from Guild Pact in 2005, but there's got to be a word we can use that does not use that many words. I mean, we've shortened comes into play to enters now. We've shortened goes to a graveyard from a battlefield to dies. I think we can find something that is not, if a triggered ability of a legendary creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Like that is some end of a medical advertisement nonsense there. I am not here for it.
We also are just kind of like at the terminus point for this ability being interesting. Like this one and whatever this card is, assuming it's reasonably rated, Roaming Throne is just like kind of the ideal Panharmonicon. I don't know how you make cards that are more interesting or powerful than Roaming Throne without making them like actually too good for constructed. So
Yes.
I kind of just hate this design space.
Super narrow, but like, yeah, fits into something. Like, Panharmonicon just does everything, right? So it's kind of nice to have ones that at least only serve like a particular purpose, so you can have it for your like one pet commander or whatever.
Gandalf the White is another niche version of this that nobody really uses. It's the Flash Gandalf that triggers on legendary creatures dying. So it's like if a legendary creature dies, you get to trigger the ability twice. Yeah.
Artifact enters or leaves.
Oh, enters or leaves.
Legendary permanent or an artifact entering or leaving the battlefield causes you to trigger an ability of a permanent you control. Trigger that ability an additional time. Wow, it doesn't just trigger abilities on the permanent, it triggers any ability that would cause a creature to enter or leave. So it doubles Blood Artist triggers. This card's cracked. What the hell?
It is very good.
I have never read the text on this card outside of the price tag on it. Yeah. Which is weird because I love Lord of the Rings.
Well, you know Gandalf, and like going in, you're like, oh, Gandalf. I know what Gandalf does. He does magic stuff. And then,
right. He's 5 mana. He's not constructed playable. I like that it exists.
Okay. What are you guys' opinions on some of the silly names? I mean, we've gotten plenty of them every single top-down set, and they always make me groan. I am not a fan of multiple choice from Strixhaven. Don't love the community memes about witness protection. Maybe that's my boomer energy, but we are getting a card name called This Town Ain't Big Enough.
And it rules. This is the best card in the set already. Reach for the Sky.
I like that a lot.
Great. Yeah. Well, find your whimsy,
Train
DJ.
Heist.
Great Train Heist. Could be a case. It could be a saga. I'm here for it. Form a posse? Are you kidding me? I'm getting a crew together to stage a heist on the train. Claim Jumper. Like, all of these are good.
We've done this for a while. Like, Didn't Say Please is like in the same vein.
Yeah.
I really liked it a lot. Like, it's the kind of thing that gets a whole table of people laughing because someone makes a joke around it.
And also, like, they're doing a set based on, like, Western tropes, right? And if you're doing a trope set, that this is the place to do it.
I know.
Like, you're an anime guy. Does everything did You Are Already Dead not tickle your fancy?
Not really. Maybe I'm just dead inside. Maybe I'm already dead inside.
I mean, you've got to have some amount of tongue-in-cheek, right? Like, they can't make a Western set where, like, it's, like, 0% tongue-in-cheek. Like, it's got to be something, because it's always just a pop culture thing.
Sure. Well, on that me being disheartened note, Jimmy, is there anything else you'd like to talk about that is not Reach for the Sky related?
Not particularly. I would say that, like, there may be people out there who are, like, curious about the whole box cracking thing, and I did a little bit of thinking about, like, what I would tell people if they want to kind of do this thing, and part of it is, like, trust the math. Like, if you are a math guy and you go out there, math person, excuse me. If you're a math person, you go out there and, like, start looking at, like, different sets to, like, crack or whatever. You really can't, like, get upset about variance. And actually, it goes back to, like, what you were talking about with the vendor Discord we're in, having, like, a huge discussion. There are people who say, like, oh, well, I don't want to crack something if I can't crack enough boxes to, like, you know, guarantee that I'm going to make money or whatever. Like, that's just not something that you need to be worrying about. Generally, like, there's a lot of variance and a lot of hidden variance in, like, pretty much everything we do in this industry. And I think that you should just, like, always focus on just making good buys and making good decisions, and then not worrying about the results necessarily. Just, like, make the decisions that you can when you can do it, and
you are asking Magic players to achieve Buddhist enlightenment right now.
I mean, it's a good... Hey,
that is some airbender detach yourself from worldly possessions. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's correct, but
I played poker for a living for 15 years.
Dipping their toes in.
You have to kind of, like, master yourself and not, like, not get concerned about the results once you make, like, the decisions you can make. Because, like, obsessing over, like, a bad result or whatever is just gonna always, like, almost always leave you sad at the end of the day.
This is some very pro poker player advice. Where, like,
for sure, yeah.
You have to make the correct decisions as often as you can, and, like, some high value advice I once received is that life is one long session, and you just gotta roll with the punches.
Life is one big session. Exactly, and that's definitely a poker player thing. Like, if you buy 50 boxes of Unfinity and run really bad and get all Temple Gardens.
Zero
like,
comments.
That doesn't mean
Zero
that you
comments.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't make a bad decision. It's just like, eventually if you keep doing it, it'll end up working out. We opened a bunch of the new
90% of
sets.
gamblers quit before they hit it big, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you should do. Move to Vegas, put it on red. Eventually you'll get there.
That's just correct, quite frankly.
I think that put it all on red and eventually hit it big segues really nicely into my pick of the week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
Because it deals with treasures, and it's a red card, so we're going to put it all on red and get a bunch of treasures out of it. I think I'm pronouncing this correctly. Zorn from AFR, as we mentioned earlier. Zorn is a silly little guy, and he gives you 1 extra treasure token anytime you would make treasures. That's what he does. He's a red guy, and we have plenty of treasure making cards printed over the past few years. We have all the professional face breakers, we have the docksides, we have the renowned and overpowered bootlegger stash that was banned notoriously after it came out. But Zorn, I think Magic is going to continue to make treasures. We have all of the synergies with, like, whenever a token enters or leaves, everyone loses a light. We have all these things that make treasures being the best thing you can do in the format. We have treasure hate. We have the whole Commander thing is about treasures nowadays. Zorn has quietly crept from the $1 to $2 mark to the $3 to $5 mark. I think this is a Cryptghast style card where you will see it as a mainstay in most decks that can play it soon. And I would not be surprised to see this card continue to be $10, $15, eventually asterisk reprint avoidance.
I think this card probably saw a decent spike because of Nuka-Cola Vending Machine, or at least there's like a lot of extra pressure there, because I know that card is like showing up in a lot of weird spaces.
I think it doesn't take a lot for a card like this to get good, and something resonant like that will definitely cause copies to dry up quick. I've been a big fan of this card since day one. It was the first and only ampersand card I bought before I bought a complete set, and that I'll never sell because I will be buried with it again. But Zorn is like,
it's in the
that
same
card is
class
aces.
It's like in the same class as Academy Manufactor.
Yep.
Where just like it's just always going to be good because that kind of thing is always going to be happening.
We were just talking about, like, do it again mechanics with whatever this secret legendary doubler is from Outlaw Junction or whatever. Things that say, do it again, make another one, double that, twice that, do more game actions are just perennial.
Also,
any card that can break the game on Magic Online is like a card that people are going to have fun with.
Notably, Zorn is a named creature in the D&D universe.
Yes.
So obviously, if there's a secret layer that for some reason wants to put a D&D specific character in, you can't help that. But this card is kind of tough to reprint. The list would actually be the place I'd most likely see it.
There is a list printing. I can't tell you what it was in the list, but
I can. It was in Lost Caverns of Ixalan set booster pack.
Sure.
Not quite as hard to reprint as an actual Universes Beyond card because they own D&D, but it's pretty difficult.
It's kind of like Mimic is the kind of card that you probably would only ever see on the list.
Yeah, they can't just pop this into Thunder Junction, the set itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Also kind of weird to put into a Commander deck. I feel like they might actually avoid stuff like that in Commander decks, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question.
I would think you would need a
year.
critical mass of treasures for this card to be put in a Commander deck, which I don't know if they would do.
Sure.
All right, Cass, what do you got for us? You clued us in a little bit earlier about what it would be.
Yeah. So this is kind of a breaking bulk of the week in that it's a card that is bulk that you will find in bulk, but also I think you should buy some copies of because it's very powerful. It is the 7-mana Typal Instant Eldrazi, Not of This World. Notably, that card counters any spell that targets your Lumbering Megasloth, or also your Merit Lage. Also, the card has a negative buy list spread for one of the printings. Both of the printings. One of the printings has a direct premium. We're getting Eldrazi in Modern Horizons 3. This is the kind of card that could be in the Commander deck for it, but it was just in Commander Masters, so maybe not. And it is a free spell that counters a spell. Obviously, the conditions are kind of steep, but like this is the kind of card that has been expensive before as an uncommon, and it could be expensive again. Cost of buying in is very low, especially considering there's already, like I said, a negative buy list spread on the Commander Masters printing.
Sure. This is one of my baby's first breaking bulks from like 2011. Just picking these out of bulk and trading them in to afford $10 Misty Rainforest for my standard deck.
I think I saw it popping up in modern decks too, actually.
That actually makes sense because there is like some number of Reanimator decks in modern right now.
Yeah, it's really good with Atraxa because you can find tribal cards with it.
Oh, that's cute.
That's kind of sick.
Yeah. So if you reanimate Atraxa with Goryo's Vengeance or whatever, and then blink it, you have like a completely free.
Sure.
It comes with its own Force of Will. That's cute.
Yeah. It's super low opportunity cost to play. I guess the hardest part of playing it in those decks is that it doesn't pitch to Solitude or Grief, but otherwise.
Yeah, just as a one of, because Atraxa digs so deep, you only really need one of.
Also, for what it's worth, in the Lumbering Megasloth list that I've seen for Legacy, they're just playing 4 copies of this because you have 8 things that you can protect. And if this card ever sees play as a 4 of, it's just like over. Like this card just like...
Yeah.
It probably cannot sustain the price.
3, yeah,
okay, so
I think Eldrazi's going to see a big jump in Modern Horizons 3.
Hear me out. The funniest part about this being used in that specific Legacy deck is the joke you get to make when your opponent solitudes your Lumbering Megasloth, and you say, "I'm sorry, my sloth is from Fallout. It's not of this world, not of your super magic world. It's from a whole different world."
And this town ain't big enough for the both of us is too out there for you. You find your whimsy in strange places, DJ, but I'm glad you find it.
All right, Jimmy, what do you got for us for a pick of the week to close out the episode?
All right, I'm gonna break all the rules.
Okay.
Oh, I appreciate it, DJ. It's really nice to be on. But yeah, I'm gonna break all the rules. I'm gonna do a sealed pick of the week. I'm gonna say now's the time. If you have any, or if you know someone with some that they don't want some, get Commander Masters sealed product. The collector boxes are good, but when you look at the raw EV of the draft and set boxes, the singles just keep going up because no one's cracked any of this stuff. The direct premiums on some of the stuff is like really crazy. And I mean, if you look at the murderer's row of cards in this set, like the non-foils just sell. You can sell multiple copies of like some of the best mythics in Commander over and over and over again, and it's just it's never going to get particularly cheap if they get reprinted, so they'll always be good. And they buy list well. They just, everything about it is just like one of the best products ever. And right now people are still dumping it for under the distro cost. So if you can get them for anything good, I mean, set boxes I think under 300 are pretty solid to open.
I remember this being the set where people were talking about how they bought hundreds of cases and their businesses are going under because of it. So you're going to see a lot of the stuff being dumped on the market for a while. Tragic, but also it's happening, so you might as well jump on it while you can.
Yep.
For sure. I mean, I am looking at the page for Commander Masters on MTG Stocks. You have to scroll for a while on a big monitor before you get to the not double-digit cards. Like, I'm scrolling past Jeweled Lotus, Doubling Season, Avis, and Demonic Tutor, Fierce Guardianship, Toxic Deluge, Ur-Dragon, Cyclonic Rift, Craterhoof, Smothering Tide, Savala. We're still in the 20s now. Training Center, Deadly Rawlock. Like, it just goes on and on and on. There's so many good cards in this.
And every pack has plenty of like good staple uncommons too. You know, Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, like they may not be worth a ton of money, but they all sell.
For sure. Not of this world.
You know what else is high expected value? Many things in this life, but few is high expected value as a t-shirt or a hoodie from our sponsor, Coalesce Apparel and Design. Go to coalesceapparelanddesign.com to purchase your Jim Davis, your Brainstorm Brewery, your any number of Magic-themed shirts and hoodies. And we guarantee that if you buy them, you will get a shirt. And there's a chance you might also become a billionaire next week. Again, a chance to become a billionaire. A guarantee that you get a shirt or hoodie.
JJ, put a strong asterisk in the show notes for me.
There is a chance. Who knows? Who's to say what's going to happen in your life? You could get a meteorite could fall in your backyard that's made of dilithium or whatever one of the Star Wars elements is. That could happen.
Well, Jimmy, what did you say earlier? Put it all on red, move to Vegas, something along the. We are towing a fine line here.
If you buy a
the
Corliss
stars
Apparel
have
design
aligned.
shirt,
I think it's gonna be me this week. I can feel it.
He is the math guy.
you buy a T-shirt or a hoodie, wear some fine clothes, go to Vegas, show up in style, put it all on red. Who knows? Tomorrow could be a lucky day.
The other asterisk I will put on that is I know some of the BSB shirts and/or hoodies are out of stock in certain sizes. I will be reaching out and trying to get those back in stock for everyone because I appreciate the demand and I appreciate the fact that they are sold out. And we appreciate the Patreon supporters of this podcast at patreon.com/BSB. For as little as 20 or 25 cents an episode, you can throw us $1. And that goes to pay JJ, our editor. It goes to pay Matt, our thumbnail person. It goes to pay Anderson, our person who handles administrative tasks and social media and stuff like that. We have several people behind this podcast, behind me, Jason, Corbin, and Cass, who work very hard to create it and make sure that it goes out consistently and that we can reach out to awesome guests and have them on every week. So thank you very much, Jimmy, for coming on, showing us a deeper dive into your very specific niche of this industry because, like I said before at the start, I don't think many people consider what you do at all, and they may have written it off as a relic of a bygone era of like the pre-Return to Ravnica days, but it is good to see that there are still people out there opening packs, making sure things are available for players, and just continuing the ecosystem in that way while not being a revolving door and not losing money while doing it.
I appreciate it. I like to break all the rules, so it's nice to do something that no one else wants to be doing.
Or knows how to. I mean, I certainly don't have the skill set for that myself. Thanks for everyone for listening to Brainstorm Brewery. We will more than likely have Corbin and/or Jason and/or me and/or Cass back next week in some regard. Jimmy, if you would like to plug any socials or anything, if you want people to be able to reach out to you for any specific, maybe there's store owners who have extra stock they want to get rid of, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm at JV Fricke on Twitter, but it's pretty much just a personal account. I don't, like I said, I don't want your collections. I don't even want them. So if you want them, go send them to DJ instead. So.
Fair enough. End of the episode. Bye.
Bye.